Assalamu alaikum. I am Dr. Saleem Iqbal from Department of Computer Science, Allama Iqbal Open University. Our today's session is on the topic Networking Basics and Data Communication, that is the Unit 4 of the course CS5305 Applications of Information and Communication Technologies. Regardless your field of study, it is essential to know that in this digital era where we have multiple devices in our daily life like cell phones, like IoT devices, that how these are connected with each other and how these functions in the form of a network and how data flows in between them. Let's start by understanding the basic concepts, that how these things, these concepts are connected with our real life applications. By the end of this lecture, you will be able to know, you will be having the deeper in fact understanding about how the network communication works, how these type of networks are connected with each other, and how we can facilitate our daily life applications. Here is the outline of our unit. At the start, we will discuss about the networking basics, the basic concepts, use of networks, the common types of networks that we have in our daily life, how these networks are structured, what kind of media they are using, wired or wireless, how these devices are connected with each other, and how the data communication occurs on the telephone lines. What is data communication? Let's start from our daily life application where two persons are communicating with each other. For example, person A needs to communicate with person B. Here, what is communication? The communication is the sharing of information between individuals or groups. The same thing happens in our computer networks, where these objects, where it could be the persons, are replaced with the computers or computing devices like the computers, cell phones, or maybe tablets. So how these devices are connected with each other. So the proper definition of data communication is that it is the exchange of data between devices via some transmission medium. Now the medium here could be wired or wireless as we use in our daily life. Now the question is, what kind of information or what kind of data we are exchanging? From user's perspective, we know that a human being can understand the data that is in the form of text, that is in the form of might be images, audios, or video. But because we are transferring this data on a computer network, and computer is a digital machine where the data is in the form of bits. So when we are exchanging the information, it means we are exchanging bits in fact. But from user's perspective, these bits are the audio, video, or textual data. The process involves multiple components. Out of them, 5 are in fact essential. For example, for communication, it is necessary that there should be a sender who is originating the message, who is sending the message, and obviously there will be a recipient who is the receiver of the information, who is the receiver of the data. So sender and receiver, these are two important components. Yes, if we are talking about one-to-one communication, that it means that there is a single sender and single recipient. But it might be a group communication where yes, the sender could be single, but the recipient could be multiple. For example, in the case of TV broadcast, where a single source is transmitting, but there are multiple television data receiving the data. So in fact, the 5 components of the communication, there is sender, receiver, and obviously there will be some medium in between the sender and receiver. This medium could be wired or wireless. So, sender, receiver, medium, and the fourth component is the data that you are transmitting over that medium. This data is the same that we discussed earlier, that from user's perspective, it is either the text, audio, or video. But when it is being sent over the network media, obviously it will be in the form of media specific format, might be the electrical current or might be the electromagnetic waves. But these waves or the electrical current are the bits that has been converted from the text or the audio or the video into the group of bits. Another important component is the protocol. For example, if two persons are communicating with each other, obviously the purpose of sharing is to give understanding of some concept. So, the data, the information that is being sent from one end to the other end should be received and should be understood by the recipient as it was intended by the sender of the data. So, rules are the protocols. For example, I am communicating with you through some a language, for example, English. So, English language, the decision of English language or any other language could be defined in the form of protocol, in the form of rules and regulations. Next, we have the use of network. Obviously, when the networks are formed, when the networks are structured, the purpose of making the network is to share some information. So, what kind of information we want to share? Obviously, it is from user perspective the same, that it could be text, audio, or video. But the use could be different. For example, from one user's perspective, I may need to use it for my personal communication, maybe in the form of emails, maybe in the form of conference call, or might be a voice over IP call like we are using in WhatsApp. Or the purpose of sharing from personal could be official as well. I want to take backup of the data, so I can place it on a safer location. So, this could be another use of the network. Similarly, other than the text or the data, the purpose could be to share the peripheral devices. For example, I want to share my hard disk with my colleagues, or I want to share my printer with my colleagues. So, the use of the network here is interpreted as sharing of hardware. So, the information or the data or the sharing of hardware, these could be the possible use of network. Next is the transmission modes. Transmission mode, in fact, refers to a process of transferring the data from one end to the other end. There could be three possible ways how this transmission or how this communication can occur. The first one is the simplex, that is, you are sending the data in one direction. For example, the data being transmitted from a keyboard to the computer, from a mouse to the computer, or might be you are sending the data from computer to monitor. These are few examples of the computer itself. Similarly, in the broader context, you can consider it with the same example that TV broadcast. The system is transmitting data towards your television, but vice versa is not possible. Your TV is not sending data towards the TV broadcast system. This is one example. The second way is the half duplex, in which the two-way communication can occur, but one at a time. For example, walkie-talkies. When one user is finished with sending the data, it says some specific words to depict that it has or he has ended his communication. So the other person could now send the data. The third form is the full duplex. That is the most common form that we are using in our today's applications. This is the two-way communication that can also occur in parallel or simultaneously. Both users are sending the information at the same time. Obviously, the basic purpose behind this is to enable an effective communication or to enhance the efficiency. Next is the type of networks. Networks are categorized based on their size and coverage area. Smaller networks or larger networks. Primarily, there are three types of networks: local area network, metropolitan area network, and wide area network. But in today's life, we are also using the personal area networks that is in fact also becoming common. Personal area networks are the smaller network that we can have maybe in our rooms, in our classrooms, might be in our vehicles. For example, you are connecting your cell phone with the AirPods, or you're connecting your smartphone with the smartwatch. So this is an example of personal area networks in which we have very limited or very small area to be covered. The next is a local area network that is in fact very common, in which again we have the connectivity of devices within a limited geographical area. For example, our router is connected with the computer. This is an example of local area network. In this type of network, the limited geographical area may span a couple of rooms, even a couple of buildings that are nearby each other. The next type of network is the metropolitan area network, in which the area is extended from the range of the LAN, and it covers normally the area within a metropolitan or within a city. So connectivity in between buildings that are within the same metropolitan area. And the third or the fourth, in fact, if we are talking about PAN, LAN, MAN, then it is fourth, wide area network that covers larger areas, might be the continents. And the most common example of WAN is the internet that all of us are in fact using. These all type of networks could be in the form of wired or wireless, because as we studied today that the 5 basic components involve a medium. This medium could be wired or wireless. So these type of networks could be formed with respect to the type of network along with the specification or selectivity of media. For example, for personal area communication, we may be using Bluetooth. Similarly, for local area network, if we are developing it for wireless applications, then the WLAN Wi-Fi technology could be used. Similarly, for metropolitan area network, where we can have the wide connectivity, we can also have the wireless connectivity in the form of, might be extended form of networks like wireless application. Next is the network topologies. The network topology defines the way how devices are physically connected with each other. There are multiple topologies that a user or the network administrator can use depending upon its need. Obviously, all of these topologies have different uses based on their performance. For example, the first one is the bus topology, in which we have a single line of media and multiple devices are connected with each other, as it can be seen in the first figure, bus topology. The next topology is star, the most common one in fact, where the devices are connected with a central hub. This central hub is providing connectivity. It is simplest form, but on the same side it could be even vulnerable for failures, because the single point of failure is the center one. Third one is the ring topology. Ring topology is a connectivity of devices where the devices are connected or formed in a form of ring in a circle. One of the advantage of ring topology could be that the devices that are inside the ring can have the equal opportunity of sending the data. But on the other hand, the disadvantage could be that the failure can occur at the breakage of any particular node in the ring. Another topology is the mesh topology. In some form, it could be advantageous, but in wider cases, it may not be possible, because the devices in mesh topology are all devices are connected with all other devices. So there are the backup paths, there are the replica paths we have for transmission of data, but the cost increases. How networks are structured? These networks could be formed in the form of client-server architecture or might be peer-to-peer networks. For example, in peer-to-peer networks, we have torrent, where we are getting the data from a particular device. These structures could be even hybrid also, where we may have the server and peer-to-peer networks. In client-server architecture or client-server systems network, the clients are the nodes that are getting the services from a central machine, that is the server machine. Server machine is normally considered a powerful machine that have enough resources for the clients that are required on the other edge, that are the nodes. Client-server architecture or client-server network have their own advantage as compared to the peer-to-peer networks. In peer-to-peer networks, all nodes are having directly connectivity with the other nodes. Network devices, a very quick overview, because most of these devices you already are using maybe in your life. The common one is your router. Router is the layer 3 device. We will study these layers in the next slides. Router is a layer 3 device, and its purpose is to connect different type of networks. Next, we have switch. The switches are used for connectivity of devices within a local area network. The switch is called layer 2 device. Next is hub. It is the basic device, in fact, that connects multiple computers. We use the same hub concept in our star topology, in which the central device could be a hub that is providing connectivity to the nodes, to the clients. Another common device is modem that performs modulation and demodulation, and its purpose is to convert digital data into a form that can travel on the analog wires, for example, telephone lines. So the conversion from digital to analog and analog to digital is covered in modem. Network media, the fifth component that we studied today, that there are 5 components: sender, receiver, medium, data, and the protocols. So medium is another essential component. The media could be wired or wireless. In wired, we have different choices. For example, twisted pair cable. There are a lot of categories, Cat 4, 5, 6, that we can use to connect our computer networks. Another is coaxial cable that we are commonly using in our homes for televisions. So coaxial cable is also used in computer networks for connectivity. Another cable is fiber optic. Fiber optic cable, again, because the data in this cable is transmitted in the form of light. So these cables, the core or the inside of this cable is either the glass or the plastic that can carry the light, because light or the data that is being sent in the form of light could be fastest way to send the data as compared to the other type of cables, for example, twisted pair cable or coaxial cable that are carrying the data in the form of electrical current. The second type is the wireless media. Yes, it could be used to provide the ease, but as compared to the wired media, might be the ranges could not be so long. In wireless media, we could have the radio waves that are used to transfer the data in the form of electromagnetic waves, or the infrared that is also a common way for connecting different devices. These technologies could equally be used in any type of network that we studied, for example, personal area network, local area network, metropolitan area network, or the wide area network. Communication protocols, that is the rules or regulations that are required to send the data from one end to other end. At the start of our lecture, we discussed that if two persons are communicating with each other, we need to define the rules. For example, that I will use English language as a medium for communication. If one person is using one language or the other is using another language, obviously the data that is intended to be understood by the receiver would not be same as it is understandable by the sender. This is one example of protocols or rules, but there could be many other examples for the protocols. The most common protocol suite that we are using today, even in our Android devices, iPhone, iOS operating system, Windows or Linux, that is the TCP/IP protocol suite. This protocol suite is the backbone of internet. There are some other protocol suites, for example, Apple Talk, but that is used for limited Apple devices. For worldwide communication, we will be requiring a universal model, a universal framework for communication, and that is the TCP/IP. Other than this protocol suite, there are multiple other protocols as well. These protocols on one hand could be application specific. For example, HTTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol, that is used for communication in our browsers for accessing the information from the server. For example, you are accessing the website AIOU.edu.pk. From the server, it is fetched into your client machine. It is done by the use of HTTP. Similarly, we have FTP for file transfer protocols, SMTP, and many other protocols. The SMTP protocol is simple mail transfer protocol that we use in our email systems. Next is the OSI model. Like the TCP/IP model, that is the practical one, we have the theoretical model as well, that is OSI. This model has the 7 layers. Application layer, that is closest to the user, means it have to provide the data to the user in the form that is understandable by the user. That is either we know it is text, audio, or video. Below this is the presentation layer that deal with the representation of the data. For example, if it is text, then computer networks use ASCII format. Similarly, if the data is audio, video, Then accordingly, the formats like MP3, MP4, AVI. Next is the session layer. Session layer is used to maintain sessions between two devices. It also maintains the information that how much data has been transferred from one end to the other end through the mechanism of checkpoints. Next is the transport layer that provides the reliability, that the data from one end to the other end, from one application to the other application, is being sent reliably. For this purpose, we have different protocols and different services on this layer. For example, flow control, error control. Next is the network layer. Network layer provides the routing capabilities and the logical addressing. The logical address, as you already know, IP addresses. And there are different versions of IP. The most commonly used is IPv4. Next is the data link layer. Data link layer is further divided into two sublayers, logical link control and the MAC layer. This layer is also used to provide reliability between two devices at the local level. The same thing we discussed over the transport layer, but that was in between applications. Last layer is the physical layer that is more closer to the medium, wider wireless. So its purpose is to provide physical properties, physical specifications. For example, conversion of bits in the form of media specific format, might be electromagnetic waves, might be in the form of light if it is coaxial, it is fiber optic. Next is real world applications. Networking and data communication are now integral part of our daily life. We may use it for internet browsing, online gaming, video conferencing, and many more applications. Today we have discussed about networking basics, the basic concepts behind them, the devices that are being used to convey the information, the media in between two components of devices, rules that are in the form of protocols, and also how these networks are structured. I hope you have understood today's lecture, and it would be interesting for you to learn about the devices of our daily life, that how these are connected with each other. Thank you very much. Allah Hafiz.